Hello, it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in October. It is November already, but I, for one, am not quite ready to give up the Halloween feels. So yes, I am going to wear my pumpkin t-shirt today. October ended up being a really busy month for me, and it was mostly good, but it was also quite exhausting and I just didn't get as much time for reading. So anyway, first up I read 3 point horror books. These are the Halloween themed ones. We've got Trick or Treat by Richie Tankersley Cusick, and Halloween Night and Halloween Night 2 by R.L. Stine. And I read these as a read-along with several other people, which was really awesome that so many people took part. It was a lot of fun and it was just super nostalgic to revisit these books because it has been some years since I've read them. These are like YA horror books from the 1990s, and Trick or Treat I remember enjoying back in the day, but I couldn't really recall Halloween Night 1 or 2. I have a point horror read-along video where I talk a little bit more about these, so I'll leave that linked below if you want to check it out, but I'll talk about them briefly here as well. My favourite of the 3 was Trick or Treat by Richie Tankersley Cusick. This is about teenager Martha. Her dad remarries and they, along with her new stepbrother, move into an old house which seems to have an old secret. So while Martha is getting used to a new school and new friends and a possible romance, she is also experiencing some creepy goings on, like strange phone calls and feeling like she's being watched. I was worried that this wouldn't live up to my memory of reading this when I was a kid, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was atmospheric and suspenseful, and it definitely kept me guessing, and yeah, it just got me feeling all Halloween-y, so I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5. And next I read Halloween Night and Halloween Night 2, both by R.L. Stine. And here we're following another teenage girl. This one is called Brenda, and her cousin Hallie comes to stay with her and her family because Hallie's parents are going through a really messy divorce. And Brenda ends up having a bit of a rivalry with Hallie. Hallie ends up stealing Brenda's boyfriend, and yeah, Brenda is not too happy about it. She's also experiencing some weird things going on in the house, and she suspects that Hallie is the culprit. And Brenda decides that the only solution is to kill Hallie. So she and her friends plan this to take place at Brenda's Halloween party. Halloween Night 2 picks up the following year, again in the run-up to Halloween, and we're following some of the same characters. Both of these books were very fast-paced, they were very dialogue-heavy, and in comparison to Trick or Treat, the writing just felt quite lacking. It's very simple writing and there just wasn't as much substance to these ones at all. They were just quite silly, but they were fun in their own way. I quite enjoyed reading them, but I just couldn't really rate them very highly, so I ended up giving each of these 2 out of 5. Next up, I took part in the Books in the Freezer Readathon, which took place from October 1st to October 14th, and this was hosted by Stephanie at That's What She Read and Rachel at The Shades of Orange. And yeah, I had got my TBR all set out for this and just sadly ended up not having much time to devote to reading during the readathon itself. I won't go into too much detail on these ones either because I did already post a wrap-up video for the readathon, so I'll link that below in case you haven't already seen it and if you want to hear a bit more of my thoughts about these books. But the only book I actually completed within the 2 weeks of the readathon was Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. I read this on my Kindle, and it's about 4 horror authors who go to spend the night in a haunted house. And I was really looking forward to reading this one because I've seen 5-star reviews everywhere. But I guess I'm in the minority because I just wasn't head over heels about it. I thought it was good. There were things I liked about it and things I didn't like about it, but overall I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read, part in the readathon and part afterwards, was The Hunger by Alma Katsu, and this was very kindly sent to me by Putman Books, so thank you to them for sending a copy my way. I thought this was excellent. This is a retelling of the Donner Party. It's set in 1846 and we're following all of these families who are travelling together across the country to California. And there is a horror element to the story which I really liked. It's basically like historical fiction with a horror twist, and I thought her writing was excellent and I found the story really compelling. It was an enjoyable and atmospheric read, so this one I gave 4 stars. And the last book that I read part of during the readathon is October Dreams, which is a Halloween themed anthology edited by Richard Chizmar and Robert Morrish. And I started this towards the end of September just to start getting me in the Halloween mood. And yeah, this is an excellent collection of short stories by various different authors, and it also includes Halloween memories by some of the authors, so it's these memories plus the short stories, and I just thought that was a really great and interesting mix. And as with most collections, some stories are better than others, but overall I've been enjoying this. I did manage to get a bit more read during the rest of October, but again, not nearly as much as I would have liked, and I ended up getting, I think, a little over a third of the way through. So I still have a way to go, and I'm not sure whether I will keep reading this during November or if I will put it back on my bookcase and pick it up again this time next year. I'm not sure, we will see, but so far I've been really enjoying it. I would rate it like a 4 out of 5 at this point, and yeah, I do really want to continue with it at some point. So after the read-along and the readathon, the next book I picked up was Security by Gina Wohlsdorf, and this is about a new resort called Manderley. Yes, that's a reference to the house in Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and this is for the super rich and famous, and it's going to be known for its high-tech security system. And we're following several employees who are working on getting the place ready for its grand opening. But there's also a killer in the building. This one was such a weird experience for me because it started off so strong. I was absolutely loving it for the first however long. I was loving her writing style, and I was just really intrigued by the setup of the story, but slowly my interest waned and the story just kind of lost me, and by the end of it I just wasn't enjoying it at all. The thing I liked most about this is that it's told from the perspective of security cameras, which I thought was a really interesting idea. I'm sure some might hate that, but I actually really enjoyed it. And we also read certain sections of the book where there are multiple cameras, so it's like a split screen and you're reading different things going on at the same time. I really liked that. My problem with it was that there was a side story that ended up kind of taking over too much, and I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't care about this side story, which was such a shame because, like I said, this book started off so strong for me, and you know, I thought it was at least going to be a 4-star read, and then halfway through my interest was starting to wane, but I thought, well, it's still okay, it's probably a 3-star. And then by the end of it, I was just like, well, why did I waste my time on this? This was a 2-star book. So yeah, that was super disappointing. And the author calls this a horror novel, but I don't think it is. I think it's more of a thriller with horror elements. there is like a slasher aspect to it, and I did really enjoy that, but there was just so much other stuff going on that didn't relate to that ended up kind of overshadowing the slasher part of the story. And by the end it just got really confusing and convoluted, and I just didn't care at that point, unfortunately. So yeah, I gave this one 2 stars. And then last up, just to finish the month off, I read The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This is about a lady who takes a job as a governess for a brother and sister, and she starts to experience some strange goings on in this large house. This was originally published in 1898, and yeah, it's very well known as being like a classic ghost story, and I have read it once before, but it was years ago. I remember enjoying it, and I am familiar with the story, but this time around, I don't know, I just had kind of a hard time with the language. I do struggle with classic literature. I just find it sometimes quite difficult to read and difficult to understand. So while I enjoyed the story itself, my actual reading experience was a bit hit and miss. I'm glad I still picked this one up. I ended up starting it on October 30th and then finishing it on Halloween night. So it was a great time of year to pick it up. So this one I ended up giving 3 stars. So that was everything I read in October. Let me know if you've read any of these and tell me what you thought. I hope you all had a fantastic October, and that if you celebrate Halloween, that you had an awesome Halloween. My husband and I hosted a party on the Saturday before Halloween, which was a lot of fun, and I dressed up as Walter from the Burbs. So yeah, you can see my costume here. My outfit and the dog were all thrifted. The wig I actually ended up getting just after Halloween last year when there were sales going on, so I got that for pretty cheap. And then the axes I made out of cardboard and just spray painted them black. So yeah, it was really fun to put together. I do like to try and be a bit creative with my Halloween costumes, and yeah, even though no one knew who I was, I still enjoyed being Walter for one night, and it was good fun. And then Halloween night itself, we just stayed in. We had a bunch of trick-or-treaters, which was really fun. They were all adorable, and we got some good compliments on our Halloween decorations and stuff. And then we just stayed in and watched a horror film. So yeah, that was good fun. But yeah, either way, I hope you had a great night if you celebrate Halloween. And I'm hoping that November will be a bit of a recovery month for me, because October has just been so crazy. I really need to just catch up and recover, and I'm hoping that I will have more time in November to devote to reading. So yeah, we will see how it goes. But thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!